Give, and it will be given to you. A good measure, pressed down, shaken together, and running over, will be poured into your lap. For with the measure you use, it will be measured to you. Luke 6, verse 38. In the quiet town of Melville, on a chilly afternoon, the sun hung low in the sky, casting long shadows across the winding roads. It was the kind of day where time seemed to slow down and people hurried to get home. Among the rush, a man named Brian Anderson was driving his weather-beaten Pontiac, a loyal companion that had seen better days. As Brian drove, his eyes caught sight of an old lady stranded on the side of the road. Even in the dim light of day, he could see she needed help. Her Mercedes had succumbed to a flat tire, and she stood there, a picture of vulnerability and distress. With a kind heart, Brian pulled up in front of her, the sputtering engine of his Pontiac still echoing in the air. Even though he wore a warm smile, the old lady couldn't help but worry. No one had stopped to her for the last hour or so. Was this stranger going to hurt her? He didn't look safe. He looked poor and hungry. Brian could sense her apprehension, understanding the fear in her eyes, for he had been in similar situations himself. It was those chills that only fear could put in you, the old lady thought, as she shivered in the cold. Brian, sensing her discomfort, said, "I'm here to help you, ma'am. Why don't you wait in the car where it's warm? By the way, my name is Brian Anderson." Relieved yet cautious, the old lady followed his advice and retreated to the warmth of her Mercedes. She watched Brian closely, wondering about this kind-hearted stranger who had come to her aid. With dirty hands and scraped knuckles, he crawled under the car, searching for a spot to place the jack. He worked diligently, the discomfort and pain in his hand a testament for his determination. As Brian tightened the lug nuts, the old lady rolled down her window and began to talk to him. She told him that she was from St. Louis and was only passing through. Gratitude flowed from her as she thanked him profoundly for coming to her aid. Brian just smiled as she closed her trunk, his humility shining through. When the lady asked how much she owed him, any amount would have been accepted to her, but Brian never once considered being paid. Helping others was not a job to him, but a way of life. He had lived his entire life that way, and it never occurred to him to act any other way. He told her that if she truly wanted to repay him, the next time she saw someone in need, she could offer that person the assistance they required and simply think of him. With a heartfelt goodbye, the lady started her car and drove away, leaving Brian standing there in the fading twilight. It had been a cold and disheartening day, but he felt a warmth in his heart as he headed home, disappearing into the dusky horizon. A few miles down the road, the lady saw a small cafe. She decided to stop in for a bite to eat and escape the chill before embarking on the final leg of her journey home. The cafe appeared somewhat dingy, with two old gas pumps standing outside, relics from a bygone era. The whole scene was unfamiliar to her, a stark contrast to comforts of her daily life. The waitress who greeted her with a sweet smile caught her attention. The waitress was nearly 8 months pregnant, her swollen belly a testament to the challenges she faced. Yet, despite the physical strain and fatigue, she maintained a positive and welcoming attitude. The old lady marveled at how someone with a little could be so generous to a stranger. Then, a memory flashed across her mind, a memory of Brian. After finishing her meal, the old lady paid her bill with a crisp $100 bill. The waitress hurried to get her change, but when she returned to the table, she found it empty. The old lady had slipped out the door. She was gone without a trace. Confused but determined to do her job, the waitress cleared the tables, filled sugar bowls, and served the patrons. It was a long and tiring day, but she made it through, buoyed by the memory of this kind stranger who had touched her life. That night, after finishing her shift and returning home, the waitress lay in bed, thoughts swirling in her mind. She pondered the money left by the mysterious lady and the heartfelt message written on the napkin. How had the lady known how much she and her husband needed it? With the baby due next month, they were facing financial challenges that weighed heavily on their hearts. She glanced at her husband, who was sleeping soundly beside her. He had been worried, and she had been too. With a soft kiss and whispered words, she comforted him. Everything is going to be alright. I love you, Brian Anderson. There is an old saying that goes, what goes around comes around. In the tapestry of life, kindness is the thread that binds us all. Brian Anderson, a humble man with a heart full of compassion, had once extended his hand to a stranger in need. In turn, the old lady, touched by his kindness, paid it forward to another soul, the pregnant waitress facing her own trials. And so the chain of love continued, passing from one to another, binding them in a web of compassion and humility. In the end, it was a reminder that in a world often filled with uncertainty and hardship, acts of kindness could be the beacon of hope that guided us through the darkest of times. The story embodies the golden rule which Jesus taught in Matthew 7 verse 12. So in everything, do to others what you would have them do to you. Brian and the old lady exemplifies this principle by offering assistance to one another and to the waitress. It emphasizes treating others with the same compassion and care that we desire for ourselves. In conclusion, the story embodies several biblical lessons, emphasizing the value of compassion, kindness, generosity, and the importance of putting one's faith into action. It beautifully illustrates these principles through the characters' action and interactions, reminding us of the timeless teaching found in the Bible.